Hey guys, and welcome back to another Conan Exiles video. Today we are in the Exiled Lands in map square F8, undertaking a speed build of a single player fortress. There's a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. Firstly, this build was suggested by the Exiled V2 on my Khitan House build guide. He asked for a build with pieces from a minimum of 4 DLCs, and today I've combined 5 DLC pieces together to build a pretty imposing fortress. This is designed as a base for the single player mode of Conan Exiles, though you could probably also work this into a PvE setting. This fortress is also intended to have attachments and adjustments as and when you need, meaning you could expand out to add a temple, animal pen, thrall breaking area and more. In this build I created a central tower with rooms spreading out away from the tower, leading into an exterior fortification wall. I built the interior tower with a mix of Stormglass, Argossean and Frontier, which created a really quite nice tonal variety with darks, lights and midtones, and helps to avoid the pitfalls that overuse of these materials often create in both the atmosphere and the feeling of a build. On that exterior wall I built a septagon using Turanian on the bottom and Yamatai on the top. It was sort of a tough process to work out which materials I wanted to use and which ones I definitely didn't want to use. I wanted to avoid arena because I overuse arena a lot, and if you've watched my videos you'll know that very well, and the way I decided it was basically just to sort of pick them based on the tones. Obviously Stormglass is very dark material, Frontier is dark to mid-tone, and of course Argossean is probably one of the lightest materials in the game, so by combining these I get a good broad sweep across the tonal spectrum. This is basically what I went for on the interior, and it's a fairly good way to balance out the build in terms of tonality and atmosphere, because the actual tone of the materials you pick will in the end determine somewhat the atmosphere you're going to cultivate inside your build. The exterior wall was a little bit of a harder choice, and I went through a few different ideas before settling on Turanian and Yamatai. I chose these two materials because, well, they're quite flashy in terms of how they look. Yamatai is a bit more understated than Turanian, but I find Turanian is quite a very loud material, if that makes sense. With Turanian's main tones being black and of course gold, this creates a nice parity with the Stormglass on the lower section of the interior of the build. I chose Yamatai as well because of course it tonally contrasts against the Turanian, but Yamatai does of course also have that slight gold accent running through it, which is a nice way to pair it with the Turanian and create something of a thread that holds the two materials together. I think the most material mixing I've done before is 2 main materials and a third as a highlight. It's rare for me to mix more than 2 different materials together in the structure of a build, so at first I was kind of unsure exactly how this build would turn out. However, after I'd actually finished the build, I'm pretty proud of this one. The exterior ends up looking really good with just the right amount of verticality and balance that can walk a very healthy middle ground that makes the build look quite attractive. On the interior the build is meticulously decorated, and I think that even considering the somewhat segmented design, the build flows quite nicely, and it feels nice even just to walk around inside of it. I only use the less building placement restrictions mod for this build, just to allow some extra flexibility with decoration placements, so all the decorations are from either the base game or the various DLCs, and though, I'll be honest, I usually struggle with vanilla decoration, I think this one actually came out really nicely. Anyway, that is about all for now. This build took a good few hours, but in the end, it was all worth it. This is probably one of my personal favourite builds so far. I hope you all enjoy the rest of the video, including the walk through the finished build at the end. Don't forget, you can get 68% of a 2-year deal with NordVPN plus a month free when you visit nordvpn.org/eredyt or use code eredyt at checkout. The links to my Discord, Twitch and Patreon are, as always, in the description too. As always, thank you to all my patrons for continuing to support the channel, and thank you for watching, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the build.